All right, hey guys, morning. How's it going? Actually, you know what? Let's hold off on the pleasantries. Let's get down to the status. This project, this marketing splash page, was supposed to be ready on Friday. It's now Monday, and I have no visibility into the status. What's going on?
Well, I had a great weekend, and yeah, I was watching some shows this weekend.
I really am not interested in that right
Hey,
now. I
Michael,
want to
me
know
too.
where
I
the
pressure
project is.
washed this weekend. I pressure washed the entire driveway. It's so clean out there now. Like I
What
could
about
work
the
from there now.
marketing splash page? What's the status on that? Where are we on that?
It's in progress. In progress. It's in progress.
That doesn't tell me anything. When is it going to be ready? When can we go live with it? Michael, you were supposed to get some queries to Row last week. What's the status on that?
Well, I think you need to look at them first. Last time when I got these queries, you had me do some rework and they weren't up to your standard. So I should have something for you to look at, maybe today, tomorrow.
Well, I mean, we're supposed to go live, and Ro, you were supposed to do a bunch of analytics on data that was sent to you. What is that book? What's the joy of agility? There's no joy here. We got to get this out.
But you're so waterfall. I mean, yeah, it's just so waterfall.
Hey, I don't care if you do waterfalls, schmagel, or whatever you want to call it. We got to get this project out.
Ro, help me out here. I mean,
there's no flexibility. I mean, look at Amazon and Google and all the things that are happening in the news. I mean, we don't really have time to breathe to get stuff done. I know, Michael.
We are Kumar Inc. Yeah. And we've got to get this out. We got to get our marketing together. We got to get it out. So what are we going to do? How are we going to fix this?
I just don't feel that motivated.
That's I'm not here to babysit. You guys got to pull up your pants, your big boy pants, and get this thing done. So that was fun.
Yeah, that was.
What'd you guys?
I hope we conveyed what the opposite of the principle is that we want to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what was hard about that conversation? And I'm sure I've certainly been in situations where I've been berated by my boss, and there's been no safety, right, in the room. How did you guys feel when I was, basically yelling at you?
Ro, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. It makes you really think about as a human and as a worker, how do you feel about the situation that you're encountering? You've probably been doing the work that you can do, but you can't get a word in edgewise to really think about and be thoughtful in the work that you've been working on and the cross coordination that you're doing with the team. So it made me feel as soon as you jump right into the discussion, you want to know a status report is all you want to know, or you want to know a line item for a PowerPoint presentation that you're probably putting together to hire a boss. And that's all you want to know. You're in here to just get that. And once you get that, that's all you need and you walk out. But you've now just basically created a train wreck for the status report for the rest of it. So once you leave this call and we progress on what our work needs to be done for that day or that week, we're in shock mode, and not much is going to get done after that conversation.
Yeah, that's a horrible way to begin a day or begin a week, right? From a psychological safety perspective, it's like you're going to be on edge pretty much the whole day, and maybe the whole week. And really, when you talk about unlocking the intrinsic motivation of knowledge workers, which is what this principle is about, poor Michael's like, I'm not motivated.
I really didn't feel motivated after that. And in just a skit, it was that level of that tyranny of the urgent is really coming through there, right? That's the environments that all of our teams work in, is this idea we got to hurry up and deliver. And it saps the motivation. And sometimes, when your leader comes in and adds to that tyranny of the urgent, you're right. I felt it even in the little skit. I could feel that kind of emotional pressure.
Yeah,
and, definitely is not going to bring the best out in a team.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Peter Drucker, which a lot of he's written about this, of course, and it's part of the the white paper on this principle. And he states, right, that I'm going to just show this one first. The worker must be heard and respected for management to lead effectively. So for me as a manager to lead effectively, I need to hear you guys. I need to respect you guys for what you know. Right? You're a knowledge worker, what you know, what you do. And clearly I wasn't doing that. Right. So how would you coach someone like that character that I was playing? Because I'm not like that.
Yeah, we know that, Kumar. We know. For me, the first step that I usually get into when I recognize that in a leader and a manager, or even an individual contributor or a subject matter expert can sometimes come across that way. Me especially, is in the one-on-one setting is really let's talk about the principle, right? The principles are there for a reason. They're to give us that foundational of why we do things the way, kind of the style that we do things. And so I would probably say let's practice a little listening. You're the leader, so maybe you could listen first and speak last in an organization or in a group. And it's okay to listen. You did it great in the skit where you're like, so how was your weekend? And then you just blew past that. And then of course my response to that was something that I've seen several times in my journey, which is, you're not going to blow past me. I'm going to go back to your first question, right, and I'm going to answer that because that's important to me, right? Yeah. And telling you about my weekend, it's respect. You're giving me some respect if you listen, right? And I should have some respect since I'm doing all the work for you. And so I think, that's probably how I would start that conversation, is just listen a little bit more. It was right to ask it, but then you have to listen and let people react to it. Spend some time, in that space. It can't be all about delivery, right? So that's where I would start.
I think it's the space that you provide, that comfort space that you provide people, just that essentialness of what Michael is talking about when you first come in and you give us a space to share kind of our personal life into our private life. I think it allows you to really then be vulnerable as a leader, but then it allows your people to be vulnerable as well. And that's how you just start developing trust. And when people are like, oh yeah, we have transparency, we have trust, and the next thing that comes out of their mouth or their action, as you showed today, not Kumar that you are like that, but that just is like the polar opposite of what you want to achieve, right? So when we talk about really rewarding people and feeling people really just want to be felt like they're essential to the organization and they're providing a value to the organization, and that you consider them a coworker with full respect. And I think that's where we lose sight of that, is that yes, you want to be the leader. Yes, you have things to report to. Yes, we have responsibilities, but the way you engage and you interact is the foundation of building trust with your team. And once you establish that over time, then that rush that you feel that you need to get something done, the team begins to really understand, not from a, oh my God, we got to get it done because Kumar's going to scream at us. No, we got to get it done because Kumar needs this, and he's on our team. He is part of our team. And he's essential to our success.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In John, I don't know if you're familiar with John Maxwell. He has this model, the 5 levels of leadership. And level 1 is you're a leader because you were promoted. You have the title, right? You have the position, the power to be able to tell people what to do. And that's all you have, right? And so what I think you all witnessed was a really bad case of that level 1 leader, right? And when you get to level 2, it's people follow you because they want to, not just because you have a title. And that's level 2. I mean, I got 3 more levels to go, right, in this model. Level 3 is people follow you because they want to, and they produce results. So the team is aligned towards the results, the goal of what they're being asked to produce. To your point, Ro. And then level 4 is leaders, produce other leaders, and level 5 is like people that you read about, like for good or bad, like Elon Musk or
Bill Johnson, $1 trillion coach. Bill Johnson, the $1 trillion coach.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. $1 trillion coach. People like that are luminaries, right? As leaders. One of the other things
just like 2 days ago, Kumar, that I wanted to share with you that you can think about. But there was a quote on my LinkedIn that just popped up. I don't know if they knew that the meetings of the mind we were going to be doing this recording, but is a salary increase makes you happy once a year. A healthy workplace keeps you happy throughout the year. And that can't be any truer, right? I think it's really key to the successful.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of harkens back to, for me, and it reminds me of that video by I forget who. It's about purpose.
Dan Pink.
You mentioned it the other day. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know,
Thrive, I
it's
think, is a
about
book.
taking, right. It's about taking money off the table, meaning you pay people enough and then give them purpose, give them, you know, an avenue where they can pursue their passion, right, for the work that they're doing, and that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot more in this principle. You know, this is one of them, right? Workers are the most qualified to make decisions about their work. So what was I doing wrong in that meeting in violating this part of this principle?
Well, it comes down to autonomy, and I kind of hinted at it in the skit, saying, "Listen, last time, you know, I did these requirements, I had to do a bunch of rework because they weren't up to your standard, right? Your standards."
Yeah.
And then the idea for me is exactly that. Look, you know, am I the expert? Maybe I do need some guidance, but there's a whole art form to that as well. But the reality is, the knowledge workers generally know more than their bosses do, and you've got to unlock that. It's not enough to just assume it. You've got to encourage it and empower it. It's a seed that you have to you know, water that seed. And I think your approach to that in the skit was, you know, I'm going to tell you what to do, and I'm going to tell you it's not any good, and you're going to get it right, and I'm going to make sure you get it right. And what you get then, of course, are order takers and people that just, hey, you better look at my requirements, whatever. Just tell me I don't get paid enough to do what you're telling me, right? To think for
Stifle
myself.
innovation. Yeah, you stifle innovation at the end of the day, because you're not creating space for people to really think outside their work zone. And the essential of really unlocking that intrinsic value of a worker is really to give them space to really have that time for innovation. So then that way they can think of beyond what the current work is, but really think about what the customer may want 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now versus day in and day out what they want. Because then you're not really allowing people to innovate and be thoughtful and be essential to the organization in the long run. You're stifling their creativity at the end of the day is what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great point, and you led right into some of the other parts of the principle, you know, at least the parts that Peter Drucker contributed to the principle about, you know, which is innovation. It has to be part of the work. It has to be part of the responsibility of the knowledge worker. It's not something like, okay, Michael, this is your innovation day. Go innovate. No, it's not like that, right? It's much more nuanced than that, wouldn't you say?
Well, absolutely. You do have to make time for innovation. You do have to. There is a part of that thinking, but you also have to understand innovation happens. The old term was innovation happens in the slack, right? And the tyranny of the urgent, deliver. Oh my gosh, we're due tomorrow, deadline driven. That really undermines almost all the best practices, you know, at the end of the day, which is why we have Agile ceremonies and we have these kind of milestones in our day. Go do this, make time for this, get organized, right? The synchronization and the cadence all plays in so that we can create opportunities for innovation. But you're right. I mean, you've got to innovation happens literally by the collision of ideas, right? It's not one person goes off and invents all this cool stuff. Innovation is multiple minds come together, sometimes around a problem, sometimes on accident because they've been forced to, sometimes it's at a ceremony, and sometimes it's in that individual work moment where the light bulb goes on and the developer or the testers is, you know, hey, this doesn't sound right, or I've got a better idea. And it's the organization, it's leadership's responsibility to make the environment fertile for that. And also not just fertile for innovation, but a way to capture it and bring innovation to delivery, right? Because I've been in organizations that have really powerful innovation thinking and nothing ever changes. They think about some great ideas, but they don't execute. Ro, I'm sure you've seen something like that.
No, yeah, and what it reminded me of is that you don't give room people. So when we talk about that, is what you're alluding to is when you work with a team like that, that is everything that they do at work has a connection to some kind of innovation or opportunity to grow what you're expanding on. And so today, when Kumar came up to us and started asking us about daily status report, it would have been awesome, Michael, if you had, yeah, we didn't do this, but Kumar, let me show you, you know, something that we thought of in place of that. But I don't think he would have given you the room to give you, he would have been that dream squasher. They'd be like, I don't have time to innovate. This is a status report. Like we thought about doing the splash page, but we actually found out that this is a better customer experience. Let us show you. I don't think you would allow that room because we don't have that level. You could tell we didn't have that level of trust in
Right.
order to have that engaging conversation. So we were just sitting back, right? At the end of the day, we're just watching it.
Oh yeah, I think that's a really good point. That because that character was so overbearing and so micromanaging, I think it stifled any thoughts of innovation on your parts, right? So you were just like, all right, I'm going to be the order taker. I'm going to be the short order cook. Just tell me what you want, and I will give it to you. And I'm not going to think outside the box. I'm just going to cook the burger and fry the fries and stick it on a plate and off you go, right? So I didn't allow you to tap into your creative side and be the chefs, right? To create something new and something great, because we're all aligned around mission, and I think that speaks to this here: provide autonomy with mission and minimum possible constraints. Right, and that's something that I wasn't doing, and I think it speaks to what you were talking about, Ro.
It's a hard thing to do for a leader. You don't
Super hard.
want to let go of those reins because you feel like you lose control. But then once you kind of lose control once and say, I'm going to let it happen, see what happens, and then there's some kind of magic that happens over time. As a leader, if you are that thoughtful reader, right, that thoughtful leader is that you start pulling back and you let your team to build out what you're thinking without you having to tell them to do it. And that's the magic sauce. And I think I shared with you, Kumar, before the recording here that it was all about, I worked on a team many years ago, and I think I stayed on that team way too long to really think about, it was time for me to go. I had grown the position, but I had such an awesome team. I had a great manager that gave me autonomy, that gave me empowerment to really do things that I felt were the right things to do. She didn't question it. And then, it was just, I never wanted to leave that team. And it almost feels like it becomes not a question of whether how much you're getting paid or what you're getting incentivized. It's really that feeling of reflection that you feel valued, you feel appreciated, and that you have a job to do every day. And you have purpose. I guess that's the best way to describe it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I know Dave talks a lot about purpose, but you have a purpose and you feel like you're making a difference in that purpose. And it's bigger than the paycheck that you get.
No, I absolutely agree with that. Michael, I think I talked over you.
No, I was agreeing as well. No, it's all good.
Yeah. I think we've all been there. We've all, I hope everyone has a chance to experience that type of an environment where you feel valued, where you feel like you have purpose, where you feel that the things that you do contribute to some greater good, that you're able to exercise your passions in a way that where you can grow, where you can learn and continue to get better at your craft, right? And if you're not in a place like that, then there was a book I was reading the other day called Disrupt Yourself by the author named Whitney Johnson. And what I don't know, have either of you heard of it or read it?
No.
A great book. And actually we did a video, it's in our channel on disruption, personal disruption. What she states is that, when someone joins a company, right, the first few months, it's sort of getting to know the culture in the company, getting to understand how you fit in the culture. And so that can be a stressful time for anyone. And it's a very key time for leaders, managers to not do what I was doing. Because that can just ruin it for that person, they're going to end up being the most disengaged employees that the company has because of their experience with someone like that character. And of course, once they start to understand the culture, they start to fit in, and they enter this stage of engagement because they're learning, they're growing, they're probably experiencing some of the things you did, Ro, in that team, on that team, or I did, or Michael, you did. But then you get to a certain point where you reach mastery in your craft, right? And when you reach mastery, you may not be as engaged anymore because you start to get bored, right? You start to think about, okay, this is just sort of like I can do this job in my sleep. And what she argues in her book is that before you get to that point, you should be thinking about what you're going to do next, right? To disrupt yourself. And I think in an environment that values innovation and autonomy, you can do that. And it's a sad statistics that you see out there that only 30-40% of the workforce is engaged, which is indicative of my earlier character. It's probably companies that are more run like that than what we're talking about.
Well, if you think about it, I want to jump in on that, Kumar. If you think about it, we spent the last 15 years in agile transformations, transforming teams, the delivery teams, the squads that are doing the work, whatever term you're using in whatever particular brand. But we've been successful there. If you look across the industries, we've got a lot of people, a majority of people know what Agile is, and developers and testers and analysts can work in an Agile iterative environment and benefit and use that. We have spent a fraction, like I would argue, less than 10 or 15% of that effort has been around the leadership. And how does a leader lead in an environment like that? Lean Agile leadership, in the scaled Agile model, or whatever. Maxwell, Kumar, you and I are both Maxwell coaches. So there's just not been that level of focus. And I think for me, that's the next decade. That we spent the last 10, 15 years working on teams. You want to really get high performance in your organizations. It's applying this principle and the other principles like this to leadership, because they have to set the standard in the culture.
I like that.
I'll get off my soapbox.
No, there's a lot of studies. I don't know if you guys have looked, because a lot of executives, where I worked in the past, there's always been a lot around executive coaching, right? But when you get into the specifics of executive coaching, the focus sometimes is not at the right level, right? Because I always feel like, as an enterprise agile coach, I'm like, you just want to say, it's a fault of the leadership. But when you look at the leader and you start interviewing the leader and what keeps them up at night and their pain points, they're feeling the same anxiety and stress that we feel as the workers that are developing or doing the business side, the business, the design thinking, whatever you want to look at, whether you're a business or whether you're IT, it applies across. They're feeling the same anxiety, the same stress that we are. So it's really unlocking. I think it's dual. It's unlocking the needs of the leader to see what drives them to be a good leader. And then you have to look at it from the worker's point of view, which is what this value is all about, and really come together with those things. And as a leader, you have to realize that what motivated people 50 years ago is no longer what motivates people anymore. People are moving based on the fact that they're happy and content and that they have a purpose at work. And it's not just driven by dollars or by incentive or by bonuses. It's a different society in this world.
Yeah, you're right. And I put up this ticker because I think this speaks to what both of you are talking about, which is it's really about the system. The people are part of the system, of course. And so if the system rewards certain behaviors, to your point, Ro, how do you break out of the cycle, right? Leaders are under the same pressure as their subordinates, because they're probably being pressured by someone, and on it goes, right? It's the tyranny of the urgent. I love that, Michael. It's the board. It's the you have to sort of, it's the quarterly.
It's the market. We're not. Our earnings per share are not big enough. We need to make it bigger, and you're not doing a good enough job. And then it's the trickle down pressure.
Yeah. And so I think it's really about it's really about understanding the system and understanding the levers that management leadership can pull, and of course having self-awareness as to their part in it, right? Because yes, it's not entirely their fault, but they're not entirely blameless either, because they're perpetuating it by falling into the same patterns and habits that their predecessors were following, right? And so it's a matter of sort of looking in the mirror and understanding, okay, this is what we are like. This is what we're doing, not only to each other, but to our knowledge workers. And how can we improve it?
And as coaches, right, our responsibility is to help these leaders step up to that podium or to that place. And sometimes we're not doing a good enough job at having that transparency and that trust. You have to build it over time. You can't walk into their office and say, wow, that was an awful meeting, Kumar. You came in there with guns blazing and you just blew the entire building. Of course, it would take moments of true, exactly. It would take moments of truly trust for me to then walk into your building, Kumar, and say, hey, let's chat. I need to give you, I need to give you some feedback. And once you start to bring in that two-way feedback communication, it's so powerful for a leader. They need it. They're not asking you for it, but they need it. And it builds another level of trust, and it feels like they can be vulnerable with you and vice versa.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think this principle, this is a fun one to do from a video perspective, because we get to act out what it shouldn't look like. But it's also, I think, one of the most important ones in this set of principles from SAFe, because it's really talking about the people. And when you're talking scaled Agile or any Agile framework, any kind of transformation, it's transforming how people work, transforming habits, changing cultures. And when you talk about change, it's all about changing people.
Uncomfortable.
So
it's an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, it sure is. We're well over time here. It's no longer an Agile short. Anything to add before we sign off?
Yeah, I would just say this, this is one of those core principles. When you think about how do I apply it, understand it, every organization needs it. And it should be, if you're a Scrum Master, an RT, a coach, or a manager, director, or above, understanding this principle does empower you for success.
Yeah.
It's foundational. It's like the building, right? You're building on a steady foundation. Without this, the other ones begin to fall down.
Yeah, I will put some links to some books that you can read, and of course the link to the principle here in SAFe. But there's some good resources for all of you leaders out there that are maybe this resonates with you, right? So either you were in a meeting like that and you had an experience with the character that I played, or maybe you recognize some of those behaviors in yourself. And so check out the resources, and we hope you enjoyed this video. And Ro, I want to thank you for joining us. I forgot to mention, Ro is with Scaled Agile and has truly graced us with your presence and your experience. Thank you.
My pleasure. This is fun. I'd love to do it again, but it was really great fun. And there's a lot of stuff that we're working on with regards to leadership as well, too, because we see a huge opportunity there with regards to really thinking about that change leadership space. So more to come for sure.
All right. Thank you both.
Thanks,
bye, everyone.
Bye. You said big boy pants. I lost.
I was just like,
I know he's trying to throw things at the screen.
I'm just not motivated.
I know.
World biggest violin, the smallest violin, whatever.
Joy of agility. What is the joy? There's no joy agility. There's no agility here.
And you guys started off with your weekends. That was hilarious. That was a stroke of genius.
Well, yeah. You rushed right through it, and I was like thinking, I was trying to talk, and I wanted to tell you about my weekend, and so I had to just derail it. That I felt like that was right.
That was phenomenal.
And then you picked right, and pressure washed, and
And did you see me that I was waiting for people as we're talking here? I'm like,
awesome.